How's it going, everybody? So I promised we would do a few Feat videos before we're going to get the changes on August 6th. At this point we don't know what these changes are, we can only speculate, but we are hoping that they're big enough to warrant an announcement beforehand. Out of all the Feat videos I've done, this one will probably be the most fun one to make for me. We've played with some of these absolutely nonsensical feats for so long that it's only logical to call out the biggest culprits of them all. So here we go today, the most feats the game has to offer. To be perfectly clear on my stance here, I think none of these should have even been a thing in the first place. We always talk about what is and what isn't good game design, and it's really hard to judge this on an objective level. There are preferences when it comes to balancing. Some people prefer to tune damage numbers, others like to mess with cooldowns, but we aren't even talking about that in this instance. Some of the feats we have fundamentally undermine established mechanics of the game. I think a lot of people are expecting me to fully go off the rails in this video now, but I want you to keep one thing in mind. Things are blatantly obvious to us now. We've played the game for over 3 years now, poured way too many hours into it, and it's clear as day that some feats should have never seen the light of day. During the initial design process, it might have not been so obvious, while still questionable as a choice. I don't think Ubisoft just pulled these ideas out of but there was an actual thought process behind it. We do know better now, so off we go with all the funny words that YouTube won't let me say. First feat then, Rocksteady. This feat, ever since people first realized what it does, has been complained about. It's only on 2 characters, 2 rather weak, or for the longest time considered weak characters. And on top of it, this feat competes with one of the most broken ones in the game, Smoke Bomb. More on that later. So let's first look at what Rocksteady even does. Immune to wall splats and immune to knockdown from parries, throws, or revenge activation. This is what it's supposed to do, but we all know it's not the only thing. But let's focus first on what it actually does. Not getting a wall splat. That part is pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. Wall splatting is usually done with a throw after a GB, and the punished damage goes up minimally. 35 or 40 damage is kinda irrelevant. It's a big chunk nonetheless, so that's fine I guess. Now the immunity to knockdowns from parries, throws and revenge activation on the other hand, not so much. All these knockdowns guarantee a shit ton of damage on most characters. With Rocksteady active, well, not really active, the feat's fucking passive. It's not like you need to do something to have its effect. You can turn your brain off and negate all dangers that might come from attacking someone that's holding revenge, attacking while out of stamina, or going out of stamina in the first place. Yes, people should pay attention what feats their opponents have unlocked and then choose their punish accordingly. But we all know this isn't always possible. Being ganked by multiple people already takes quite some focus, and someone having Rocksteady can easily slip one's mind. Or that person could unlock Rocksteady while contesting the pawn you're just fighting on. Non-stop checking on opponent's feat bar during a fight is not something many people do, let alone does it provide vital information most of the time. My point is that messing up your punishes is understandable. It happens to everyone. Going out of stamina should be risky. A single feat should not negate all these risks. Maybe not negate, but severely limit them. I certainly do not subscribe to the line, going out of stamina is your own fault. To everyone saying this, is that why we're getting this complete stamina overhaul in a few weeks? Obviously there are instances where it's completely on you that you went out of stamina, but parries, bashes, and all those other stamina draining moves certainly play a big part in it. After the stamina changes, it certainly is on the player when they go out of stamina, to a much larger degree at least. So having a feat that bails you out of this situation without having to do anything but unlock it seems even worse then. So if we looked at what it's supposed to do, now let's look at what it does that it shouldn't. It saves you from Caber Toss, from Centurion's fully charged punch, and even the Breach Commander's top heavy knockdown move. But then we have Jormungandr's moves, which completely ignore all Rocksteady properties. Doesn't this already tell you how majorly flawed that feat is? When you design a new character and need to annul a feat completely to make a hero work. George has been considered an abomination from the get-go, a failed design experiment. The character will either always be too strong and unfun to fight, or will be completely useless because he can't do what he's supposed to do. Now imagine having a matchup against 2 characters that can simply ignore everything you do. That seems like a pretty shite situation to be in, So for better or worse, George simply ignores the feat and still knocks you down. To sum it up, not only is the feat too strong when it comes to what it's supposed to do, it also counters additional things that severely mess with other characters' viability. Picking a character or a single feat should not mean that you already won against someone else's character pick, or should mean that the other person has to work 5 times as hard. Having made that whole argument just now, there is another big brain feat, another passive feat that does exactly that. By picking it, you completely fuck over every character whose offense relies on applying bleed, or whose main damage comes from bleed. Thick Blood is the culprit here. Only 2 heroes have it. It's Warden and Nusha. You'll only ever see it on Warden, as Nusha has caltrops, which severely outclass Thick Blood. Which brings me to a major point that needs to be made. Just because a feat is outclassed by another, or considered much stronger, doesn't mean that the other feat isn't absolutely broken and unhealthy for the game. I've brought this up before. Just because only a small portion of the player base is affected by something, doesn't make it alright for it to exist. It is always important to look at the big picture. Having feats or mechanics in the game that severely hamper certain character picks is just bad design. While having counter picks, strategies that give you an edge in a matchup, or anything of that sort is completely fine, but pushing it to the extremes certainly isn't. So what does Thick Blood actually do? Because the feat is way more convoluted than you think. If you get hit by bleed, it makes you immune to it for 3 seconds. Then the effect goes on cooldown for 5 seconds. This means that you can apply bleed to someone with the feat active. You just have a 2-second window, which might as well not exist, as for example trying to coordinate a bite on someone is almost impossible, and having it actually happen is beyond rare an occurrence. What about the pick effectiveness of this feat? What I mean with that is that there are 2 distinct scenarios that can happen. Either you wasted a feat slot as the opposing team doesn't feel a single bleed hero, or you completely fuck over everyone that dared pick a hero that relies on bleeding attacks. But that's just high risk reward freeze. Is it? Where's the risk? What kind of risk did you take by picking Thick Blood? Or you don't have Fiat Lux or Inspire available? Get the fuck out. You can do just fine without a tier 2. Fiat Lux at the moment is such a high skill ceiling feat that I doubt anyone is using it effectively, especially on Warden, and Inspire, while nice to have, probably won't make that big a difference either. So what it truly is barely any risk and a huge reward. Effectively limiting your opponent's movesets by simply having a feat unlocked is, once again, horrible design. And it was horrible design even in Season 1. Bleed was even worse off back then, as you still had debuff resistance as a stat on your gear, and everyone was running that one maxed out. So while not always having an effect, when it does, this feat is simply way over the top in how it works. To be totally honest, I'd completely scrap the whole concept of it and not even try to balance it, just come up with something else. But here's a suggestion from me. It's no longer a passive, make it an active feat. Now you can cleanse bleed with activation. You basically take what Second of Wind does, but without the heal. Let it cleanse all damage over time for what it's worth. Would be worth a testing round at least. But in its current state, this feat is horrendously broken, and over time, more and more so. Shaman got released, a character with 2 separate effects of bleed, a heal and a bite. Then PK received enhanced lights on bleeding opponents. Not against Thick Blood users. This feat has the same issue as Rocksteady. It limits movesets, and considering For Honor's heroes already have quite limited movesets, let alone effective movesets, this feat just goes against the very principle of the combat system. Now for a very fun feat, Last Laugh. Tier 4 feat that leaves behind a bomb on your corpse the moment you die, but haven't been executed. What it boils down to is, you're being rewarded for dying. And no, this is not some tactical death, this is not you outplaying the opponent by dying the correct way to the correct attack. There is no way that anyone would seriously make the argument that dying was the better option than actually properly defeating the other player. This is such a nonsensical argument when it comes to this feat. It's almost as bad as the argument, dude, just kill him with a heavy. Yeah, let's do that. Hang on. Well, guess I got outplayed. Once again, this is a mechanic that rewards you for losing. Many games have tried implementing catch-up mechanics, and I can't think of a single one that has ever worked, and wasn't a huge fucking nuisance, because either it's way too strong and incentivizes losing early to get it, or it's so weak that it might as well not exist. Last Love is a little bit different as it requires actually getting to that tier 4 first, but it's the same otherwise. Either it blows everyone up, or it's so weak that it can barely finish off a wounded opponent. Either or, this feat is as anti-fun as it can get. I keep hearing that argument being made though, hey, it's a fun feat. Well, is it? Who is it fun for? The one using it or the one it's used on? There is a huge difference in perception here. The feat is absolute bullshit when it's used against you, and absolutely hilarious for the guy that used it. That in itself is a huge problem when it comes to its design. This can be applied to many other feats like pre-patch Catapult or current Space Storm. Both were nonsense, but Last Love activated by dying is just taking the cake. There is no rework in this piece of shit, it just has to go. Its utility relies on dying the right way in the right spot, something that can't be achieved in any effective way, and any other tier 4 feat is probably vastly superior. The huge nonsensical damage on it is what it makes it usable, and the term usable is used very loosely here. Oh well, that's only 3 feats, but these 3 certainly are among the most retarded we have. Sure, we have Smoke Bomb, a feat that no one really knows exactly how it works as it randomly decides to function differently. And it happens so often that we can only speculate what it should do. But Smoke Bomb is a feat that can be salvaged by changing some things. The 3 mentioned in this video, I think we'd all be better off if we completely scrapped them and came up with new ones. As far-fetched as that proposal might be, we do see some proper changes on feats, not just the bare minimum that is lowering the damage / healing values. We'll know more on August 6th. Let me know your take on this. I hope the video was entertaining. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.